Hello everyone, and thank you for watching the Climate Adaptation Summit talks. On the road to this event, we had an event in Groningen, the Youth for Climate Adaptation. Here's a video wrap-up of how that went.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone, young leaders from all over the world and distinguished guests. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Marieke IJskoot. I'm a sustainable lifestyle expert, author of the book This is a Good Guide for a Sustainable Lifestyle, as well as a speaker and presenter. And it's a real honor to be your host for this session. Today, young people will officially hand over the Global Youth Call to Action on Adaptation, and the Global Center on Adaptation will launch its Youth Leadership Program. I will welcome many special speakers today, both live in person as well as virtually, but you are, of course, an integral part of this too. Now, we're coming to you live and direct from Groningen in the Netherlands, so we are very happy to welcome Ms. Glimina Chakor, elderperson of the city of Groningen and responsible for climate adaptation.
Dear youth leaders from around the world, Your Excellency, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, distinguished guests, I'm proud and honored to welcome you as our guests in Groningen. The voice of youth is very important in the climate adaptation debate. Climate adaptation is about your future. Currently, half the world's population is under the age of 27. This will increase to 62% in 2050. Therefore, youth involvement is crucial. You contribute to building a climate-resilient society by bringing input and ambition to the table. This is essential to the development of adaptation solutions. It is of a great importance that you, as international youth, launch a call for action to world leaders that gather in the Climate Adaptation Summit in The Hague next Monday. In Groningen, we fully support this call for action. We must act now. The youth of Groningen worked hard to develop a regional adaptation action agenda. It is a local result of your global call to action. It's an example of how to think global and to act locally. I hope that this first agenda inspires youth groups around the globe to sit around the table with their local governors to make and execute these regional agendas together. Please feel free to contact us. Our youth groups are very happy to share our agenda and experiences with you. Mr. Ban Ki-moon, it's an honor that you, as a global leader, initiate the youth program of the Global Commission of Adaptation and support the global youth call to action here in Groningen today. I gladly give the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Glimina Chakor, for your remarks and, of course, for having us in Groningen, a climate-resilient city. Indeed, we will hear from Ban Ki-moon in a moment, but first, to really start off this session well, some short opening remarks from Professor Dr. Patrick Verkooyen, CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me for this extremely important event. First of all, I'd like to apologize. You're all waiting here for my running from one side of the town to the other, but I think it was for a good reason. Why? Just now, thousands of scientists across the globe for over 100 countries, Nobel laureates, were joining the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon of the United Nations by calling upon world leaders to rise from the ashes of the COVID crisis and put climate adaptation at the center of the recovery efforts indeed. This meeting today, this dialogue today, is extremely important. Why? Climate change, climate adaptation, the climate emergency is an all-of-society effort. We need government leaders? Yes, we do. We need finance ministers? Yes, we do. We need city mayors? Yes, we do. We need the private sector? Yes, indeed. But we also need young voices. We need you to make the case on adaptation, to lift the bar and to drive us forward. Earlier this week, this was quite a historic week, quite frankly, with the inauguration of Joe Biden just a few days ago, with the US administration getting back to the Paris Agreement. We all saw that, we all welcomed that. We saw the poet earlier this week. This was one of yours, this youth poet, and there was one specific sentence which really resembled very strongly with me. We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. We know, we have heard many times, climate change is a hoax. Climate change is something for 2050. Well, tell that to a mother in Kisumu, Western Kenya, who cannot feed her children because the rain didn't come. Tell that to a family in the southern side of Bangladesh, because perhaps their lives were protected from the cyclone, but their livelihoods were gone. Tell that to a boy in southeast Washington, D.C., who cannot go to school because the heat waves were coming and his family could not afford air conditioning. This is a profound moral injustice in the system which needs to be corrected. Climate adaptation, lowering the vulnerability of our system, needs to be on par with lowering our carbon footprint. You have been extremely effective in marching forward in making the case to zero net emissions, so that we stay within 1.5 degrees Celsius warming. But even if we do, even if we stay within 1.5 degrees Celsius warming, we still have to adjust to systemic shocks. We need a concrete agenda, we need commitments from leaders, and we need the energy of youth across the globe, but particularly in the Global South, to lift. This intergenerational dialogue is critically important. It's not a sideshow or a precursor to the Adaptation Summit. This is the core debate. I'm keen to join the intergenerational dialogue itself. And let's move forward together.
Thank you so much for your motivating and very inspiring words. We now move on to our keynote speaker of this session, a man who really needs no introduction, His Excellency, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. He's the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations and Chair of the Global Center on Adaptation. Now, because of the time difference, His Excellency has recorded this keynote especially for us.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and most importantly, global young leaders. Today, we are gathering to shape the script for a new vision, a new future on adaptation through the Global Youth Call to Action on Adaptation. Climate change has endangered our communities and livelihoods. Across the globe, it has caused massive flooding and deadly wildfires. It has further exacerbated poverty and global inequalities at all levels. It is deeply unfair that those who have contributed the least to global warming, the young and the poor, are the ones who stand to lose the most. Now the COVID pandemic threatens to derail the progress we have made towards the Paris Agreement on climate change and the Sustainable Development Goals. Responding to both the climate and COVID crises poses a formidable challenge, but it also presents several opportunities for us to do things differently and build back better. We have the opportunity for a greener recovery, to generate more green jobs and to create more resilience in our communities. And it is you, young people, who are the keys. You are the first generation which has never known a world without global warming. It is a moral duty of my generation to give you the space and the means to succeed where we have failed. Your ambition, dynamism, and determination, when coupled with opportunities and financial support, will be a huge boost towards building a more resilient future. I'm thankful to you all, representing youth networks and young people from over 115 countries, for joining us today and contributing to this call to action. Your perspectives and priorities are fundamental to advancing the adaptation agenda. I will proudly take forward your call to action to the summit's leaders session. As the chair of the Global Center on Adaptation, your call to action will guide our work as we work with you to support countries and communities around the world to accelerate adaptation action. You have spoken, and we must listen, and together we must act. I call on global leaders, governments, business, and civil society to make this decade a decade of action, a decade to invest in young people. This is an investment for current and future generations. This is the time to act. Let's truly unite to adapt our world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And don't you agree, no one can say it better than he can. That really hits home when he gives us that message. Now, without further ado, let's commence the presentation of the Global Youth Call to Action on Adaptation. To start us off, I'd like to welcome Ms. Nisreen El Sayem, Chairperson to the Secretary-General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change. Nisreen, why are youth so important for the adaptation agenda?
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I'm so happy and glad to be here. It's an honor for me, actually. Well, it's very obvious that young people are in the front line of every climate crisis, every climate struggle. And it's us, the next generation, who will be actually facing the climate issues very clearly and very widely. I mean, in Africa alone, more than 11 countries witnessed severe floods last year in 2020. Sudan was one of the countries that suffered the most from floods in 2020. We lost more than 800,000 people became homeless, more than 275 houses, 1,000 houses were actually destroyed. And we had to deal with waterborne diseases after the floods, not mentioning that our health system was already collapsing, and also not mentioning that COVID-19 made everything looks very much harder. It's very important also to highlight that it's us who will deal with the situation, so it should be us also who are getting prepared to that and be included in every step of the adaptation policies and adaptation plans in our countries. Young people are the movement of the change, and us inside of the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group, representing the world different areas. We will make sure that in our term as the UN Secretary General's advisor, to include as much young people as we can, and also to give them, as Mr. Ban Ki-moon mentioned, the right resources and capacity building to deal with the situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nisreen, for sharing your story with us and also for your amazing work. It really highlights how important, also how urgent youth leadership is to advance climate adaptation. Thank you so much. I'd like to now invite Ms. Adriana Valenzuela, the lead of the Youth Leadership Program at the Global Center on Adaptation. Could you tell me how this call to action was developed, please?
Thank you, Marika. Excellencies, young people from all over the world, ladies and gentlemen, today is a day to celebrate. It's a day to celebrate the energy, the creativity, and the commitment of young people from all over the globe. Youth are powerful agents of change. Empowering them is crucial for implementing the Paris Agreement, but as well for the transition towards a climate-resilient development. Last year, the Global Center on Adaptation and it is Youth Adaptation Network organized 15 consultations to give youth a platform to express their ideas and their recommendations. These consultations mobilized youth from 120 countries. And the result is this, the Global Youth Call to Action, Adapt for Our Future. I would like to use this opportunity to thank all the youth networks, organizations, and young leaders for engaging and participating in this process. Your recommendations and action really matter. I, as the lead of the Youth Leadership Program at the Global Center on Adaptation, I am committed to support your action to implement all these recommendations. You are not only the leaders of tomorrow, you are also the leaders for today. And what we need is your action, that you lead this transformation in your communities. I encourage you to continue working, to continue following your dreams, and the most important is to make your communities climate resilient. This consultation is a call for the leaders, and now I would like to invite the leaders from the Youth Adaptation Network to present the results of this global consultation.
Thank you so much, Adriana. And indeed, it is now time to give the floor to several representatives of the Youth Adaptation Network who will present the Global Youth Call to Action. First up is Rui Ruzaba from Bangladesh, followed by Vera Santing from the Netherlands, Andrea Cantillo from Colombia, and Joshua Amponsem from Ghana.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Ruhi. I'm from Bangladesh, and I'm part of the World Scout movement. Through scouting, we empower young people to actively and effectively work on the Sustainable Development Goals from the very root levels. I'm here representing the voices of young people around the world who are calling for climate justice and are already playing a significant role in how countries, communities, and businesses respond to impacts of climate change. We, the Youth Adaptation Network, together with young people across the world, are united through this global youth call to action on adaptation to demand world leaders to adapt our world for our future. We call for a decade of action to prepare the young generations for the transition towards green and climate resilient development. To adapt for our future, we call upon governments and all stakeholders to make the most of the unprecedented opportunity post-COVID-19 to implement the call to action on adaptation, in addition to their mitigation efforts and Paris Agreement targets. Thank you. Now I pass it on to my colleague, Vera.
Thank you very much, Rui, for your beautiful words. Dear people of the Earth, the past months, me and an amazing team of young enthusiasts from Groningen have looked into the world of climate adaptation and policy making to work on this regional action agenda. We learned that in order to move forward sustainably, it is most important to open up the dialogue for all those with and also those without a voice. We have to realize that we share planet Earth and that only through cooperation we can maintain this place habitable. We have to be humble towards nature and realize it's not a battle we're in, it's a collaboration. The past months we were often asked, what is it your voice contributes? Well, to that I want to say that our voice is the future. In order to prepare for this future, we have to experience the challenge of finding solutions and preventing problems. For that reason, it is necessary to include youth in the design, the implementation, and the evaluation of worldwide climate policies. We also have to invest in universal education to empower youth to engage and to adapt to a changing climate. Through learning, connecting, and doing, we can actively and harmoniously engage with our environments. As we can see at this conference, youth from all over the world is mobilizing to join forces. Let us learn through action and act through connection. It's time to act and adapt. Thank you. I will now give the word to Andrea.
Thank you, Vera. My name is Andrea. I am a young climate professional. I am part of CLIC, the Latin American and Caribbean Youth Climate Movement. I will share with you the voice of youth in Latin America and the world who have created this call for action. One of our calls to world leaders is to include us in the adaptation and resilience work that needs to be done. This could be in the form of jobs, internships, partnerships with the private sector, and through innovative financing mechanisms and technical assistance to support youth-focused projects. The expansion of economic opportunities for youth and youth-led businesses are needed actions for this decade, as we are the ones who will face the consequences of a changing planet. I cannot finish without stressing the collective demand of my fellow youth to strengthen youth leadership of girls, of young women, of indigenous youth, and young farmers. The participation of vulnerable communities in the solutions that are being created and that will be created is vital, as every territory faces different needs and they are the experts of their own lands. Thank you. Now I will give the word to Joshua.
Thank you very much, Andrea. World leaders, distinguished guests, youth networks, ladies and gentlemen. In the past 10 months, I've been very amazed by the extent of commitment and willingness and the passion and desire of young people whom I've been talking to and consulting with on climate change and climate change adaptation in particular. Through this work, I've come to realize that it is important for us to set priorities on what needs to be done. And this is what have come to be developed into the decade of action which we are presenting today. It is very important to highlight the need for policymakers to increase their own capacity to engage with young people and not always have young people seeking to participate. It is also essential that we empower young people who have special needs, particularly as an African, talking to say that people in last mile communities should have an equal voice with those living in cities and those who have professional opportunities through formal education. It is essential for us to make sure that climate adaptation is critical for also the conversation about migration and refugees. I will say that as young people, we commit to work together with existing youth networks, not only those who are working on climate change, but all youth networks in general, because the climate crisis affects every possible issue you could think about on the planet right now. Secondly, to highlight that we do not have time. Adaptation is essential, and those who are seeing the impact of climate change now suffer a double threat of having that impact today, but also having to suffer the impact of that over a lifetime period. This is the uniqueness of our voice as young people. Right now, I will say that we have to work together with formal institutions, with organizations like the GCA, together with other stakeholders to ensure the implementation of the Global Youth Call to Action. We will continue to act as change makers, and we will continue to work on mitigation as well as increasing our efforts on adaptation to climate change for a resilient future, not just for young people, but for all. Thank you very much, and I hand over back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Now that we know what the Global Youth Call to Action and also the Regional Action Agenda are all about, let's move to the actual handover. So exciting. Important to stress that in this we are joined virtually by the Youth Adaptation Networks and many other youth networks all over the world. I say, Joshua, take it away.
Thank you very much. At this point, I will say a very big thank you to everyone who contributed to this Global Youth Call to Action on Adaptation. It's been working together with a lot of young people from different parts of the world, and all of us together now virtually, those streaming online, those sitting at their homes, those who are not able to connect because of internet and electricity issues, we are all together as one and represent this Global Youth Call to Action to global leaders. And I'll start by handing this over virtually to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, to our very own Minister Cora, who is with us today, handing over to famous footballer Mr. Ian Robin, to Her Royal Highness Princess Jigma from Burkina Faso, and to the CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation, Professor Dr. Patrick Vercoen. Thank you very much.
It feels like a round of applause to me. This is an applause kind of moment. Yes. Congratulations, all of you. And I would like to invite Mr. Arjen Robben, legendary football international and a global pioneer in sports, currently playing for FC Groningen, to respond to the call to action that was just handed over to him.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, young leaders in adaptation all around the world, it is a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to speak to you today. You probably all know me as a professional football player, but I'm also a resident here in Groningen and the father of 3 young children. And in all these roles, climate change has its influence, and I'll explain you why. First of all, to start, as a resident here in Groningen, I really feel for the people who suffered from earthquakes due to gas extraction. It is good to see the many initiatives to solve this problem with environmentally friendly solutions. Like, for example, replacing natural gas for hydrogen gas. But also here in Groningen, last summer, we were suffering from droughts and heat waves. As a professional football player, I know how important it is to have the right circumstances to be active in sports. Many athletes around the world, from children to professionals, are affected by the changing climate and rising temperatures. I think we all know how important it is to be able to have the ability to exercise, to stay fit, both physically and mentally. And last but not least, of course, I'm also a father of 3 young children growing up today. I want them to grow up in a safe and healthy environment. And we don't talk about it every day, but conversations at our kitchen table sometimes are about solar panels or windmills or waste separation. And that's because climate change is happening, and it's happening right now. So it doesn't really matter if you're a football player or just a father or a resident in this beautiful city of Groningen. We all have to deal with it, and we have to act. That's why it's really inspiring to see that young people like yourselves are aware of the challenges we are facing now and for the future. Together, we have to adapt and keep working for solutions to keep our world a safe and healthy place. I will support you, so you can count me in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your words not only speak to sports fans, I think, but also to fans for a healthy climate and a better world. And listening to you, I suddenly realized how thrilled my late father would have been at this particular moment. Because we always used to watch the football together every Sunday evening. I've done that for maybe 20 years with him. And he was always very much into my work as well as a sustainability expert. So this moment where those two things come together, he would have been so proud and so happy. So thank you so much for caring about this and dedicating time and effort towards it. Also, I'm pretty sure on behalf of my late father.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This just came to mind whilst listening to Arjen, but I now realise this is actually the perfect bridge to the next section of this session, which is a dialogue between generations. There you go. So please welcome me, please join me in welcoming our guests. Our global youth leaders are Paola Diaz-Ayen of the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, Vera Santing, our Youth for Climate Adaptation Ambassador from Groningen, and Emily Bobon-Dombakse-Dola. She is a representative of Yongo, the youth constituency of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Our international experts and leaders are Her Royal Highness Princess Abzita Jigma from Burkina Faso. Also, of course, Mr. Cora van Nieuwenhuizen. She is our Minister for Infrastructure and Water Management of the Netherlands. And we welcome back Professor Dr. Patrick Verkooyen, the CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation. Your Royal Highness Princess Abzita Jigma, could you please open the floor and this dialogue with your first question?
Thank you so much, Marieke. And allow me to also acknowledge your beloved father, because when we have our mentors, we can move on. And that is a perfect illustration, want to start. And also thank this entire Secretariat of the Adaptation. It has been a huge work, running left, right with the CEO. And I'm so glad to see that we have Arjen Robben who joining us. And when a football player, he knows what it is to fight, how to score and to keep the eye on the ball. And if I may make the link, let's keep the eye on the climate action ball and to score together, because football is federating. And that is the whole thing together here today. And you can count me in as well to raise and to support the mobilization together with our Excellency, the Minister, who give us the privilege to be together. And I can tell you at the COP, she was really, really running from session to session and really welcoming everyone on the field. And I can tell you that is hours without sleeping. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your continued support and for your willingness, because this is about the willing coalition. Thank you so much. And I'm very glad to be in the session and to exchange and to hear the thoughts of our youth and to move along together. I will stop here, Marieke.
Thank you so much. But thank you for your amazing words. Could you please open the floor with your first question?
Sure. With Paola, allow me to, if I may, when I say nature-based solution, what comes into your mind and it's your drive, the drive of the young people, the girls and the boys, of course, in the field. Can you share with us your thought?
Thank you so much. Indeed, Paola, from Global Youth Biodiversity Network, we'd love to hear your response.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Princess. Thank you so much to the moderator. It is a really honor to be here sharing with you this dialogue. Yesterday, the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, Chapter Mexico, and Youth for Nature, with the support of the governments of Canada and Mexico, hosted the event Youth Leadership in Nature-Based Solutions for Adaptation. We found out that certainly nature-based solutions represent a great opportunity to restore our relationship with nature. It is a chance to bring together the voices, the willingness, and resources of different actors under a common understanding, considering in the process, of course, the involvement of indigenous peoples and local communities, with defined safeguards for their rights and for biodiversity. Our current socio-ecological crisis should not give room for greenwashing. Actions that in the long term threaten our ecosystems and the creatures that live within could not be considered as nature-based solutions. Princess, there are several challenges we need to tackle. We need to clearly define what are and what are not nature-based solutions. We need to better communicate the scope of these and involve local actors to ensure sustainability. Right now, we are facing looseness at the policy speeches, and decision makers must grant that there's no space for selfish wills to hide into the shadows. We need to solve the problem from the roots and not just create false illusions. Youth can and is already pushing for real solutions for climate change adaptation and biodiversity conservation. It is time for all stakeholders to turn their efforts of palliating the symptoms towards efforts that allow us to live in harmony within nature. Thank you, Princess, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Paola, and your team, of course. And I agree, nature-based solutions are, of course, key, but it's also about the people, right? We need to also empower different people to be able to deliver them. What would be your response to that?
So, yes, thank you so much.
Paola, thank you.
Yes, I would also like to raise the question to the Princess about what is being done to empower women and young girls to have their rightful place in community-based climate dialogues. Thank you.
Your Royal Highness.
Thank you for giving me the floor again. I think you said it all. It's about implementation and implementation and implementation. And don't forget also the youth who don't know how to write and read. It doesn't mean that they don't have the skills that has been transferred by their parents, as even our moderator today was saying that she got inspired by her own father. Those are skills that we have at home that we can raise it into our policy makers, which are our MPs, with our rights of votes, to make them take the right policy, to allow our governments. We are lucky today to have a minister in this distinguished panel to bring what is needed to be done. When it comes to the question, what are we doing on the field? You know that I have been doing a lot for more than 20 years in the rural area with the Mama-led Initiative for Sustainable Energy, because I was conscious that I'm part of the solution. Then there is no more time for complaint, but everybody needs to start doing his part. And then we can come up together and say, well, with the CEO of the Global Center of Adaptation, that is what the youth and the women and the young girls are doing on the fields. Let's come together and guide together to move along and to implement with the right tools of finance. Because let's be honest, we need finance, but finance who are adapted to the local environment. This is critical, and that is the pathway that climate action finance that our youth with digitalization can boost. And I think inclusion, financial inclusion is important. I think in the keynote speech of His Excellency, he was saying that let's take the COVID-19 has an opportunity to green the virtuous cycle, because it's let's take the COVID as a wake-up call that we can come along together and reset a world with a carbon-free for a resilient society and climate action. And I think we have a great platform here that together, you, the youth, you our compass, showing us how to do, you know what to do, and you can rely, because we are reliable for you to move on. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and keep on doing. I'm not saying that is easy, but keep on doing, because after the last no, it's a yes was coming. So keep it in mind and keep on going. So I will stop there and allow to hear the other panelists. Thank you, Marika.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And here, there's some applause here in the studio for you, and rightfully so, I'd say. So let's hear from one of those very strong youth climate leaders. We have Vera Santing here, a Youth for Climate Adaptation ambassador locally from Groningen. Vera, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you. I have a question for Cora van Nieuwenhuizen. So I was wondering, how do national governments work with young people to deliver ambitious adaptation commitments.
Such a key question, Minister Cora van Nieuwenhuizen. Do let us know what your response is to this important question.
Well, first of all, let me thank you all for organizing this Youth for Climate Adaptation conference. In working on climate adaptation, it's very important, I think essential even, that different generations join forces. Because the challenges of a changing climate will affect young people much more than older generations like mine. You bring a breath of fresh air and you give us a new perspective on things. You keep us on our toes, and I think that's really important. But even more importantly, you're taking your future into your own hands by accelerating adaptation action. And of course, that is not new. Young people worldwide have taken the lead in calling for greater climate action. And at the same time, the voices and interests of young people from communities that are already affected by climate change are too often excluded from the key decisions affecting them. So that's why this conference and your call to action are so badly needed. And we need to mobilize the next generation of adaptation leaders around the world to empower youth to make the case for adaptation on the global stage and to make their communities more climate resilient. So I'm very grateful for your efforts and from the Princess and all the others that we hear in this panel, to which so many young people from around the world have contributed. The Climate Adaptation Summit is now only 3 days away, so world leaders will come together to discuss climate adaptation and make agreements that will result in action. Your voice, your call to action needs to resonate during that summit. And I'm more than keen to support you in that, because in the end, ensuring climate resilience for the next generation is in all our interests. I have, like Arjen Robben mentioned, not 3 young children, but I have 4 older children. But still, it's in all of our interests that we create a resilient future. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best in all your efforts.
Thank you so much, Minister, also for your support. We look forward to seeing where that will take us at the Climate Adaptation Summit. Now, indeed, go from the national to the global perspective. Emily Boon-Dombaksedola, you represent the youth constituency of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. I'd love to hear your input from that global perspective.
Hello, thanks so much for having me here. And I'm here representing young people from all over the world who normally get together and work remotely and on the ground at key international events on different policy positions and recommendations that we advocate for leaders to share. And I think I would like to ask me first a question on now that the global declaration, the global youth declaration has been made. I would like to know what are the plans and the concrete steps which are out there in order for the Global Center on Adaptation and other key stakeholders to implement the call to action that young people were working on. Because from my own experience working on preparing these policy proposals and these documents, it takes a lot of hard work and organization to do it. So I would really like to see the work of young people on this honored through actual implementation.
Thank you so much, and I very much agree. Concrete steps are now key. So, Mr. Verkooyen, please tell us which your organization will take.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Emily, for your very profound question. Before I would like to answer it, I would like to recognize Minister van Nieuwenhuizen. Minister van Nieuwenhuizen, 2 years ago, when she initiated the Global Commission on Adaptation, chaired by Ban Ki-moon, Bill Gates, and Kristalina Georgieva, in her opening statement when the Commission was launched on October 17, 2018, she said, we need to build a movement. And look at where we are today, with youth voices from across the globe, with scientists from across the globe, with a famous football player just standing next to me. Minister van Nieuwenhuizen, what we have achieved today could not have been done without you. So thank you so much, Madam Minister. I also would like to thank the Princess for her 3 messages. Action, action, action. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank sort of my hero, Arjen Robben, by indeed not only keeping your eye on the ball, but also by lending your voice to this very important agenda indeed. Now, Emily, back to your question. So what are we doing on a Monday morning once the summit is over to not only support you in your advocacy effort, but also to empower you to act? Today, we're launching our Youth Adaptation Leadership Program, which has multiple components. 3 stand out. 1, today we are launching a Youth Adaptation Solutions Challenge. What does that mean? Together with the African Development Bank, we would like to partner with you. If you have good ideas on how to implement a specific idea, how to scale it up, how to replicate it, we would like to partner with you. Secondly, as part of that Youth Adaptation Leadership Program, education is critical. Earlier today, the Open University of Groningen has been launched by President Jouke de Vries amongst the Nobel laureates, but also today, a so-called MOOC, and this is an acronym which you know, an online training program has been launched with the ambition of supporting over 1 million young leaders, including yourself, to get trained, to get educated, to get empowered. So please count us in for that MOOC. It's online right now, so please start using it. And thirdly, we have our own youth adaptation program within the center. 2 years ago, here in the city of Groningen, we launched, Minister Cora van Nieuwenhuizen and Ban Ki-moon launched a young leadership program. What does that mean? It means a sort of an upgraded internship program here in the Netherlands through our regional offices across the globe. And now, as of today, we also have added a particular collaboration with major companies across the globe. So we would like to welcome you at the Global Center on Adaptation, not as an intern, but as a young leader to drive this agenda going forward indeed.
I understood that there was also a video you wanted to show. That would be a perfect moment for it, I'd say.
Please.
Go for it.
Ja, rondaf toch?
Zeker. Ik ga nog een foto maken.
Ga weg, ja. Ja, zit ook mee.
Hierboven? Ja?
People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing.
You have the power to affect significant and sustained change. Adaptation done right can create opportunity and build a better future for us all. It is your future. We must act and adapt. Will you?
At the Global Center on Adaptation, we're on a mission to help you transform your passion, your ambition, and creativity into actionable adaptation solutions. Join our Youth Leadership Program. Together, we can tackle climate change, support those already feeling its impact, and build a better, more resilient future.
The Global Youth Call to Action on Adaptation and today's sessions will be presented as the youth contribution to the International Climate Adaptation Summit this Monday and Tuesday, hosted online by the Netherlands. This summit brings together global leaders as well as local stakeholders to launch the Adaptation Action Agenda, and this session will be shown here. So that is really, really cool. Thank you so much again to our amazing guests for their contributions, but moreover, a massive thank you for joining us and for all you do to make this a better place. You matter, and we will make it happen. Let's work together to adapt our world. Enjoy and see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed that, and here's another video wrap-up of the youth highlights from the high-level opening session.
During this summit, public and private sector partners from all over the world will present solutions, actions, and best practices on resilient infrastructure, on delta development, on food security, on resilient cities and disaster risk management. And there will be a special focus on the leadership of youth and the adaptive capacity of the African continent.
We need to start building a better future now. The Paris Agreement recognized that mitigation and adaptation go hand in hand, that they are two equally important building blocks towards a sustainable world that leaves no one behind. Over the past 2 years, the Global Commission on Adaptation has worked hard to elevate the importance of climate adaptation.
We need the trillions of taxpayers' dollars funding the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic to jumpstart the low-carbon, high-resilience future we need.
Young people have done the least to cause climate change, and yet will suffer its impact the most. Across Africa, the continent with the world's youngest population, we must scale up the solutions that deliver green jobs and resilient livelihoods.
Adaptation is not an option. It's an urgent task for the benefit of this generation and those to come.
I'm today launching an all-new Adaptation Action Coalition, which is a joint effort between the UK, Bangladesh, Egypt, Malawi, the Netherlands, St. Lucia, and the United Nations. So, let 2021 be the year that we fight back, not just against climate change, but the effects of climate change that are already being felt.
If we take care of Mother Earth, she will continue to nurture us. This sentiment should guide our way forward.
C'est pourquoi il nous faut, dans l'esprit de l'accord de Paris, faire preuve d'ambition et de solidarité. Il en va de notre responsabilité à tous et de notre responsabilité à chacun. Mais il est tout aussi important d'accélérer la mise en œuvre d'actions d'adaptation sur le terrain afin de réduire la vulnérabilité de nos sociétés.
我们要树立你中有我，我中有你的命运共同体意识，坚持多边主义，开展适应气候变化国际合作。
President Biden has made fighting climate change a top priority of his administration. We have a president now, thank God, who leads, tells the truth, and is seized by this issue. And President Biden knows that we have to mobilize in unprecedented ways to meet a challenge that is fast accelerating. And he knows we have limited time to get it under control.
Climate resilience is a critical priority. And this is why we place it at the heart of what we do this year and in years to come.
With the GCA as the AAI leads coordination partner, GCA will work to implement the vision and roadmaps of the AAI.
The World Bank Group plans to invest over $5 billion over the next 5 years to improve livelihoods and restore degradation. This investment is a major contribution to the Great Green Wall.
We welcome the launch of a new Young Leadership Program to bring together the next generation of leaders to help tackle climate change. So thank you to everyone for joining us in this fight, and thank you to the young people for stepping up and getting involved. Together, we will build a cleaner, safer, and more competitive world.
We're pushing for a revolution in planning by providing technical guidelines, assistance, and capacity building to local governments to incorporate adaptation actions in their strategic and territorial planning process. In the spirit of the Article 2.1c of the Paris Agreement, we are driving a revolution in financing by designing a funding strategy to scale up adaptation actions on the ground.
We are promoting locally led adaptation that can bring forth tangible solution for the vulnerable communities in different countries of the world.
And I expect that the Global Center for Adaptation, Africa, hosted by the African Development Bank, will be a key partner in this particular endeavor.
My late mentor, Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General as well, once told me, the only promises that matter are the promises kept. Let's turn words into action, hope into reality, promises into financing for Africa.
And next up is a video about youth leadership, announcing the collaboration between the GCA and 14 leading GCA companies and their youth leadership program.
The GCA is proud to be partnering with leading companies from across the globe as part of our youth leadership program, bringing new innovative ideas to life, building youth adaptation expertise, and empowering young people to drive adaptation at scale and speed. Our partners are amongst the world's leading companies at the forefront of sustainability and adaptation, and share GCA's commitment to youth innovation and climate action. Please count on us to cement these partnerships and build a climate-resilient world for all.
As the CEO of Macquarie and a Commissioner of the Global Commission on Adaptation, I support our teams in harnessing private capital to mitigate and adapt to climate change. And I firmly believe in the power of youth and their innovative ideas as a means to address these critical issues. And that's why Macquarie is partnering with the Global Center on Adaptation on this youth leadership program to mobilise the next generation of adaptation leaders around the world and empower young people to make their communities more climate resilient in the face of growing climate risks.
There is true strength in youth entrepreneurship coupled with a strong sense of purpose. I have loved working for M-Cooper for the last 5 years because of that. We are a young, vibrant team working hard to better the life and livelihoods of our customers. We have built the world's most advanced connected asset financing platform, using it to provide over 400 million worth of financing that has enabled over 1 million African customers to access solar energy, energy-efficient fridges, smartphones, cash loans, and so much more. We are thus looking forward to sharing this knowledge on business startup and youth entrepreneurship through the partnership with the Global Center on Adaptation and their youth leadership program.
Climate change is one of the biggest crises. Responding to this unprecedented call to action needs active involvement of an informed and connected youth. The young generation is innovative and determined to make a difference. Hence, it's important to channelize their energy and creativity. I would like to congratulate GCA for the Youth Leadership Program. It's a pleasure for Yes Bank to partner and take a step towards creating a more sustainable world. Thank you.
As Europe's largest seaport, Rotterdam is a vital lifeline, a vital artery for the Netherlands, Europe and the world. We work hard to become carbon neutral and to build a sustainable circular economy. Our strategy acknowledges the planetary boundaries, and we aspire to develop new future-proof earning models together with like-minded partners. Our success will be defined by combating climate change and on the new jobs we will create and on the impact we make on the society of the future. By embracing the challenges as opportunities, our port serves as a hotspot for innovation and for collaboration with the next generation. So we are honored to partner with the GCA's Youth Leadership Program and to support youth leaders in their initiatives to shape a better world.
Climate change is the challenge of our lifetime. South Pole is partnering with the GCA's youth program because we recognize the power of young people to make a difference in the fight against climate change. I started my own climate journey as a young, idealistic environmental science student in Zurich in the 90s. Together with 5 friends, we founded South Pole. Now, I'm a bit older, but not less idealistic. And South Pole has grown to 400 passionate people around the world, working day and night to solve the climate challenge.
To confront and adapt to climate change, we need all hands on deck. Only a diverse set of people with varying backgrounds will provide the myriad of solutions we need. Innovations need to happen on all levels.
We need to support the current generation of young, passionate climate entrepreneurs, which is why we're reaching out to you. Join us. We are here to support your ideas for a more sustainable future.
We're a leading global advisory, broking, and solutions company that helps clients turn risk into a path for growth. We design and deliver solutions that manage risk, cultivate talent, and expand the power of capital to protect and strengthen both institutions and individuals. This unique perspective allows us to see the critical intersections between talent, assets, and ideas. And that's really the dynamic formula that drives business performance. We hope to share some of that knowledge with youth to improve their capacity to turn risk into business opportunities and help build a more resilient and prosperous world.
With a current renewable footprint of over 43 gigawatts and major commitment for further investments in green energy, the Enel Group is leading the transition to a renewable and resilient global energy system, powering a more climate-resilient world. We see clearly the impacts of growing climate risk as well as the urgency of accelerating climate ambition. We are therefore delighted to partner with the Global Center of Adaptation in support of the Youth Leadership Program in order to help empower the next generation of leaders in driving forward adaptation solution and climate action.
Youth has great courage, innovativeness, and willingness to fight against uncertainty. They are the leaders of not future, but of today also. We rely on our youngsters to fight against climate change and to make a better world. We are proud and honored to be associated with Global Center for Adaptation, who are engaging youth to fight and win against climate change.
I've spent almost 25 years at UPCO Worldwide, and in that time, I've seen immense changes in our world and in the challenges faced by our clients. Today, the topics of climate change and sustainability are driving so many global conversations, but are also inspiring the next generation. We believe young people are powerful agents of change, and we're delighted to partner with the Global Center on Adaptation, contributing to the training of today's youth to harness their creativity, passion, and energy to build climate resilience and to fight climate change.
Adaptation, resilience, climate action, all these are embedded in the Temasek DNA. It drives the investment strategy and it also encourages the portfolio companies to go on their own sustainability journey. Now, Temasek aims to halve its net carbon emission attributable to the portfolio companies by 2030. For Temasek Foundation, we empower the community through our innovation challenges and the research grants. And the youths are energized through our networking opportunities and also our thought leadership programs. And all that energy, we hope, will be synthesized to power the young leaders and also the entrepreneurs in Southeast Asia and beyond.
At Schiphol, we are committed to sustainable aviation, towards net zero emissions. That will require a lot of effort on mitigation and also, in all likelihood, on climate adaptation. We will need investments, but above all, we will need innovation and we will need talent. And that's why we at Schiphol are very happy to partner with the Global Center on Adaptation and especially with the Youth Leadership Program. And we are looking forward to working together.
The world is facing a climate crisis, growing in urgency, but also in our collective awareness. As a risk knowledge company, we believe in harnessing the power of including diverse perspectives and fostering innovation as means to addressing the climate challenge heads-on and developing long-term resilience. Swiss Re is therefore delighted to be partnering with the GCA on its Youth Leadership Program and contributing to building adaptation expertise amongst the future generation of leaders.
Thank you for joining in, and we'll see you in the next session.